Old countdown kicking us underway. I was very concerned as to what was following. I didn't know I was going to be on. I wasn't sure. Production is difficult, folks. This is wrestling podcasting. It's hard stuff. Nonetheless, we are back. It's a new week. Much has happened. Much of which we did cover last Friday on our impromptu, chaotic podcast. We went all over the place about the Vince McMahon retirement. Many times during that show, we referenced Triple H, which has become a bigger story since then, and we will explore it in the coming minutes, hours, so on and so forth. Expert panel as always. Jay Shell, you are keeping yourself entertained there, I see. How are you today?
I'm good. I'm still a little bit tired. I have not ate anything yet today, and it's like 6 my time. So maybe I should do that after this. Um, but yeah, we're gonna talk some wrestling.
Can you tell the people about what you said to me about you've updated your greatest wrestler ever list? You know, your top 500. You know, you're sending it in. You're sending in your ballot. You said Samoa Joe's climbed that. You telling me about this off the air? Are you going to tell him on this on the show, or are you going to save it?
I'll save it.
All right, good. Okay.
We'll save it for the late night grin.
Montel, Vontavious Purist. All right, mate. How are you?
I woke up this morning. It was a glorious day, the birds were chirping. There was just something in the air, You know what I'm saying, bro? There was just something special about today. And, I do my usual thing. I check if Dave's dropped a Wrestling Observer radio, just in case I need to, listen and transcribe that. I'm just kind of flicking through the news, and all of a sudden I see this tweet, Joe. And it's to the effect of Triple H is the king again.
Yeah.
And I had to look it up because it was just a tweet. And I go to the WWE corporate page, and there's an announcement there, and it's something, Nick Khan, Stephanie, something. Paul Levesque will be assuming all responsibilities to do with WWE Creative. I have alerted the streets. I've alerted my neighbours. We have a party planned. The King of Kings is back, better than ever.
Yeah.
And I think I'm going to be happy by the end of by tonight's Monday Night Raw, to be honest. Roman's back, MSG, sold out.
Money. Through the halls and the corridors, stinging in blood, he tasted his grin, and it tasted good. The king took his head, left him broken and dead. Bow down to the king. God bless. All right, let's get straight into it. Triple H is back. What a story this has been. They had like a full-on mob hit on his employees at one point. Everyone that was his friend was fired. It was unlike anything I've ever seen. Even Regal lost his job. But vengeance has finally came. He's back. He's the head of creative. He's the head of talent relations. This is genuinely an insane deal. I know you're excited, Monty, but Jay Shell, where do you stand regarding Paul Levesque's return to power in the World Wrestling Federation?
I can't wait for it. No, you
What a reaction. What a reaction that was.
She didn't want to admit it, but she couldn't help it.
I'm excited for the women's wrestling.
That is a real thing, actually. Some of this we're being a little bit silly, fair to say, right? Like some of it, he's not a perfect book, obviously. I think it will get better, but the women's wrestling thing is a real thing. Like he did a hell of a job with that in NXT. So I agree, that's a very fair point. Monty, you're very excited. Now, if we can be sincere for a minute, what kind of improvement are you genuinely expecting to see here in the coming weeks and months?
Everything. Almost quite literally. I think you said it at some point last week. I don't know whether it was on this channel or over at the Late Night Grin, but I think over the years we've become so accustomed to like Vince McMahon's insanity that I don't think people realise that all these little changes of like not insanity and just kind of not being insane about all these little things, it'll make a big difference overall. Vince McMahon, I doubt there's going to be much of a talent getting the balls cut off live on air. Having the legs cut off, all that sort of shit, just so Vince can pop himself. And just loads of little things from the commentary to the production, like literally everything. Like, will
Yeah.
probably benefit a little bit, and like I said, overall, that'll then Triple H being in charge of talent relations, that's huge. That's basically that's as good as it gets. Yeah, man, I'm fired. I'm fired up for it.
You're really excited, aren't you?
Yeah, I genuinely. Like, I said to you earlier, like I am shamelessly quote the Triple H guy. Yeah, he's a piece of shit.
A bit embarrassing.
Black Black and Gold NXT was. I have some great memories from
I get it.
his leadership. I genuinely think it's some of the best American wrestling of all time, and he's not and. He's not basically. It's just WWE not being run by like dinosaurs.
I agree.
I'm not saying
Speaking of
Triple H is a young 30-year-old, but he seems definitely a lot more. He definitely has his finger on the pulse a lot more than fucking Vince, Bruce, and Coda. So,
Jay, show your hand has been raised for some time.
I would like to state that I am excited to see how it may affect AEW in terms of them being at least motivated to ramp up their current product to match the hopefully new or reworked product that WWE will be presenting.
Now, tell me if I'm wrong, but did you just say you think AEW is going out of business?
No.
Monty, did you hear that?
I think I heard it.
Yeah.
I don't
check
know.
my ear.
We'll give it the benefit of the doubt.
In all seriousness, I agree. I mean, I think it'll be interesting if WWE starts to earn kind of more critical response positively. It could change some things in the AEW front. Frankly, the one thing I will say is, and I'm excited to watch what Triple H does, obviously, it is worth noting that in recent months they've actually done pretty well, WWE, on a business front. And it's like, it isn't like they're kind of declining. They've actually done pretty well as of late. So in that regard, it will be interesting to see, like, what if Triple H's booking actually stops those positive trends, ratings wise and ticket sales wise? That would be a really interesting wrinkle to the story. If the critics love it, but the audience is kind of declined slightly, that would be interesting to follow. It could happen, man. It could. So we shall see. Now, I want to kind of lock in on what we're getting here tonight, because obviously we're not going to see wholesale changes immediately. Clearly, it's going to take some time. It's a transition process. But I ask you sincerely, Monty, do you expect to leave tonight's TV seeing genuine little things, not big direction shifts, but just little things immediately, or do you think it's going to take time?
To be honest, not that many of them, but there was a few little things on Friday. Definitely, I think there'll definitely be just more tonight. Honestly, I will lose my mind if Triple H opens the show. I swear to God, bro, if that happens,
I think he should actually.
I think he should. Bro. Triple H coming out at MSG again. Oh my God.
This is important though, right? Triple H was a babyface in NXT. He was not on a lot, but he was clearly presented as the guy who was giving you this great wrestling, right? I was there in London when he was in the middle of the ring with the spotlight on him, saying the future is now and being a hero. I wonder if he frames himself like that again. Jay Show, do you expect to see Triple H on TV often, or do you think he's going to be very much behind the scenes here?
I think he pulls like a Tony Khan and just limits the appearances to like only major things. Like we saw Tony come out for the Forbidden Door show. I wouldn't expect him to come out to every crowd though, because whenever you go to a Dynamite show, Tony comes out and he'll like welcome you to the show. But I wouldn't expect Triple H to do something like that. But I mean, I think it'd be really good because one of my issues is always heel authority figures, like not even like character wise, like them real life being horrible people that you don't want to support the company because of. So if Triple H can do his best to kind of be a at least decent person, you should be good to go.
It'll be interesting to watch that element of it. Perception is so big in this. I mean, when Triple H was first rolling with NXT, he became kind of the internet's favorite guy in wrestling, right? They were so excited, and he rebranded his whole thing. And then when AEW came along, it only took a couple comments for everyone to start going, well, hold on a second, fuck this guy, which, I mean, fair, I co-sign. But nonetheless, let's see how he does here. Let's see how he works in this role. Let's see if he can marry the NXT product that we loved of yesteryear. And when I say, I mean, 2015 to 2018 range for me personally. Let's see if he can marry that with something that's a little bit more viable for the wider audience, because he is going to need to do that. NXT was great, but I don't think you can run NXT 2015 on UFC Network and Fox for 5 hours a week. I just don't.
Cool.
So it will be challenging,
NXT was at its best as well when it was 1 hour, in my opinion. So
and on the network and taped,
Yeah. So
just be fair. I'm not trying to be an arsehole here. Just be fair. His only time running weekly live TV, he was not exactly great in NXT. So there is.
Yeah, makes a good point, and you do.
There you go. Yeah. So there is certainly reasons to be cautious in terms of being the best promotion in the world or whatever else. But I think your point is, and I've said, and we mirror each other in that regard. I do think anything from what we've got is kind of a step up, just because I think he'll have ideas and he has like a wrestling mindset. He might do pushes and do big time builds.
Like normal things that we haven't been able to get used to in WWE for the past however many years. So.
Pushes are so infrequent in WWE. Everyone just kind of trods along, into his title match time. So I think there'll be positives in that regard. Obviously, we've got to let it play out. To Jay Shell's point about AEW, I think one of the most interesting things is the impact on talent, right? Because a lot of time spent, and we did this on Fridays, about who's going to look now at WWE and say, I want to go there. There are going to be people in WWE that see themselves as Vince guys. And their opportunity is going to dwindle under Triple H because he's going to look elsewhere. I truly believe that. So we're going to see talent going both ways, I think, in response to this news. Jay Shell, what do you expect this to be saying that in a year's time, 2 years' time, we look back and say Triple H being head of talent was a game changer across the board? Or are we overstating that element of it slightly, do you think? What do you reckon?
I think so. I think we'll see it maybe more at like the 3-ish year mark when more contracts are up and stuff like that. But in the meantime, I think people like Johnny Gargano will likely switch their decisions where they may have been planning to go to AEW and now they're just like, oh, well, Triple H, I can go to WWE again. But I think regardless of the talent's feelings towards Triple H, I feel like some people might just go, okay, well, at least it's not Vince. So
or Johnny Ace.
Yeah, exactly. So.
Yeah.
Or Bruce. Someone, I'll find the quote. I won't give away any names or anything, but
no.
Where is it? Bruce was terrible, so this is a step up to say the least.
Is that who I think it is?
I don't know who you might think it is, but we're not
Johnny
mentioning names or guessing
Johnny
names.
Ace.
I'm not saying any names.
It was Johnny Ace. Folks, we have a WCW Nitro situation here of sorts, or maybe AEW Dynamite for the young folks in the chat. I, of course, kicked this broadcast off with the wonderful expert panel, and soon here at the top there I'll be departing, but we do have joining us the great Hollywood Hangman? That's different. Hollywood Hangman Pierce. Sorry, it's very difficult for me. I still haven't figured out how I'm going to do this on podcast. We do many shows together.
Hunk, like Ryan Neville.
That works. Yeah, we could do that. I don't think that's necessarily the rest of who wants the channel here, but Hollywood, how are you tonight, pal?
I'm doing great. I rushed over here so I couldn't get my nice, sexy microphone. But I just ate like a fat baby, and I'm ready to talk some Triple H before watching Monday Night Raw tonight. So yeah, man, I'm it's good to be here. I see you guys have been streaming already for about 14 minutes. Jay Shell is here. Jay Shell, how are you?
I'm good. I have
good.
some tea for you.
Really?
Yeah.
Is this bad? Is this bad news or good news?
I'll just say it in the private chat.
Sure. So, I have an idea.
Wow.
Yeah. But yeah, man, listen, guys, thank you for having me. It's good to be here. It's really, really newsworthy past few days. So much so that it's warranted us kind of being on here like way more frequently. You know what I mean? Like there's so much going on like every day. Literally, like yesterday Triple H is talent relations. Today he's head of creative. 3 days ago Vince resigned. Yesterday Jonathan Gresham requested his release. It's just an insane past few days. So I'm ready to get into it with everybody and just kind of catch me up to speed on what we've been talking about, I guess.
Well, we've just been kind of going through the potential impact of Triple H in the new roles that he's in. We've all kind of gone around the horn on this, so feel free to take it from there. Just the general kind of instinctual reaction of what we've got here with Triple H, which is obviously one of the biggest stories possible in the industry at this point. What do you think?
Anybody acting like this isn't a big deal is in complete denial or is just very ignorant. this is massive, massive news for the WWE, and it's massive news for the industry because it's going to create various ripple effects throughout the wrestling world. It's going to affect so many different things when it comes to just WWE's programming and their business, down to how they sign wrestlers and wrestlers' mindsets themselves when it comes to where they choose to find employment. Triple H is philosophically very different than Vince McMahon, and NXT is very different than main roster. And I'd imagine you can't completely run things the way you did in NXT in the main roster, right? However, a lot of the barriers that kind of held NXT type wrestlers back and independent wrestlers are just frankly just not going to be there. So what I would say is this: from a product standpoint, I think over the coming months, as Hunter gets his pieces in place, whether it be people from the tryouts, NXT call-ups, or potential signings, and I think once he gets his pieces in place, probably after a draft, you're going to start to see Triple H's vision for the main roster WWE materializing. And once it materializes fully, you are absolutely, inarguably going to see programming that is superior to the current WWE programming. So if you're somebody who is a fan of WWE, this is incredible news. I'm extremely interested in watching tonight's Madison Square Garden show. In the interim, Rome wasn't built in a day. Tonight isn't going to be TakeOver New York 2019, but I think there's going to be immediate minor differences, which added together lead to a noticeably better show, if that makes any sense.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. And I think we all agree with that. I do want to just stick with you for a moment.
Yes.
I'm intrigued. What's your read on the ceiling of this product? Now, I know how hard of a question that is, so approach however you'd like, but I think we all agree it's going to be better, right?
Yeah.
How high do you think it can kind of ascend critically? Are we going to get flashbacks to what NXT was in that regard? Because NXT was critically acclaimed at its height. Is that possible? Go ahead.
When you ask me my ceiling, are you asking me like what I think it's going to reach, or what's the highest it could possibly get to? If that makes any sense, like just
absolutely. I would say
best case scenario, like.
I would say go with the form of just because of the tools at WWE's disposal. I think we all agree the ceiling is always super high. But like your kind of read on it, if you would give a prediction on how high you think it can go with Triple H at the helm, what do you think?
Wrestling Observer Newsletter Best Weekly Show.
That's what I was looking for. There you go, folks. Tweet it now. There's a headline there. Ringside News. You got it. There we go. All right. Monty, I know you're very fired up. He's very, very, very excited. He can't wait.
Just imagine the Monday Night Raw where Braun Breaker runs through the crowd, tells people to cut the music. He says his name isn't Braun Breaker, it's Rex fucking Steiner. And then Omos interrupts him. And then we get an impromptu match where Braun beats him in 2 seconds and says he wants real competition. And the Star is born in 2 seconds. I don't know, man.
So Brock comes out in the chat, and this is something that really interests me.
Yeah.
I'm really intrigued by what a Triple H makes of these kind of... I don't want to call them leftovers, because Brock is one of the great talents in wrestling history. What I mean is, there are certain guys... People. Well, look, and let's be honest, a lot of these guys, their relationship with Vince is central to where they're at in the company. And I'm not saying Brock doesn't warrant it, but will Triple H put up with some of Brock's extracurricular stuff, some of the stuff that comes with a Brock Lesnar?
I have a prediction. So, Vince does, why? Because he doesn't know how to make stars. And so he's just like, Brock does what Brock does, and I'll pay him a lot of money and deal with Brock's Brockisms, because ultimately when a Big Four comes around, I need a star to fill a spot, and instead of having to make one, I can just call Brock, And I could see Hunter maybe being confident in his ability to just essentially create people that can draw for his brand. And so because of that, I could see him slowly transition away from Brock, by kind of, I could see him kind of crunching the numbers, so to speak, and being like, do we got to pay this guy $12 million every year? And like, do I got to deal with, him potentially walking out on the show and all that extra shit? And, maybe just kind of being like, look, no one's above the brand. I'm going to get wrestlers A, B, and C to a point where they can carry my product without me needing Brock. You know,
Mhm.
so
As
we
long as
saw
one of them is in theory.
he's gonna be pushed well regardless because between Vince, Paul Heyman, and Paul Levesque, they all have different visions of what Theory is, but what they all agree on is that Theory is a worthwhile wrestling talent. They're
Yeah.
all pretty high on him actually, so that's what I can tell you guys.
Unfortunately, so Jay Shell, what's your read on the kind of the elder statesmen of the promotion? Some of them are great, some of them are not as quite what they used to be. Well, how do you think they're impacted by Triple H in power, Jay Shell?
Well, for first off, I think that Triple H will be less reliant on them. I don't think we're gonna see Goldberg getting a call whenever there's a SummerSlam match on the line.
No,
Um, I think it would more so be okay. Like, let's get this talent ready so they can actually face Roman, just in case we need a backup. Like more forward thinking, more pre planning. Um, and I don't know the relationship between like a Brock Lesnar and a Triple H, but I don't think yeah, financially I don't think that if he's going to be throwing fits like that he's going to be that interested in that. But I hope that he like decides to be kind of reinvested in their future beyond people who are just in NXT right now, like looking actually again at the independents and things like that, and re-putting a focus on them instead of having to invest a decent chunk of time in training these people when what they actually probably need is some ready-made stars, and you could pick some of those people up off the independents as well, to kind of turn them into a WWE superstar with the already pre-made wrestling talent.
Mm-hmm. Very, very interesting. Monty, where do you stand on this piece of the puzzle, so to speak?
Um, yeah, pretty much just echoing what's already been said. I think Triple H will be a lot more confident in his ability to make new stars and not have to rely on the Goldbergs, the Brock Lesnar's of the world. Um, I think there'll be a lot less panic when more and more rumors start to come out about Roman starting to step away from WWE and stuff like that as well. To be honest,
Yeah.
the wheel's just going to keep on turning, as I say a lot in WWE. So hopefully this will create a lot of new, fresh stars. Instead of like going back to the stars of yesteryear. Because as much as I love Brock, like literally one of my favorite WWE guys like ever, but it would be nice to see some new faces like
Right.
on that level.
Look, there's a way to use Brock. It's a matter of whether he's down to go in that direction. I
100%.
think the way they've used him in recent times has been frustrating because it feels like he could do exciting stuff, and instead he's kind of going in circles a little bit. Especially this latest piece of it. The rest of it, I think you can kind of explain yourself, but this part is pretty tough. It's going to be interesting. I think one of the key things with Triple H is, can he get WWE back as a babyface brand? Because NXT was 100% a babyface brand where like people actually liked NXT. And WWE has been in a really weird place where people kind of like it in spite of WWE for the longest time. And I'm really intrigued how much of that part of the product changes. Are we going to get a new presentation with opening videos, with bumpers? Are we going to get the kind of stuff that tells the audience it's different now, you can trust
It's a
us?
new era.
Yeah, I think that's more
there will
important to realize.
definitely be fall season new graphic type of
Right.
stuff. Like in television, like if you guys aren't aware, like the fall season is always considered like the new season of television, and that's the real reason why WWE's moved their draft down to that period of time, because
Yeah.
the idea is, oh well, it's a new version of the show. And that's why, like, to me, I have like certain milestone checkpoint dates in my brain about this process, right? One of them is SummerSlam weekend because they're gonna get through that, they're gonna get through the tryouts, and then they're gonna make a decision on who to sign from the tryouts. The next key date is going to be the draft, because in the time in between, they're probably gonna expect a lot of repositioning in NXT when it comes to who's holding championships,
Right.
because you will see a lot of imminent call-ups likely for guys that Hunter might want up, just to revitalize the product. Like, don't be surprised if a Carmelo Hayes appears on a Raw or SmackDown, come September. You know what I mean? Don't be surprised if a Solo Sikoa comes up, if an Io Shirai comes up. Don't be. It's like I'm breaking news to you guys. I can't. I mean, I kind of am, but
The
yeah,
Solo
like,
Sikoa one was already like, kind
I
of
just-
out there.
Hangman is a very smart
I
man.
I
I
felt
didn't know
like
about the
Solo.
TV seasons.
Solo
Yeah,
needed a
yeah,
reaction of some kind, you know. I felt
yeah,
like I had to do what Jay Shaw
absolutely,
did for Carmelo. That's all.
absolutely, yeah. So like, yeah, again, a Carmelo, a
Carmelo's
Solo.
special, Joe.
But they're
No,
both great.
he's
I love them
terrific.
both.
He's terrific. I have high hopes for him. He's somebody that I thought, aside from size, I thought he had all the tools to get over in a WWE setting, because he carries himself extremely well. He comes off very cool, in a way that I would imagine would appeal to young people. He speaks well. He's a good worker, and so for me, it was like he has what he needs to get over in a WWE setting. The only real thing was going to be, damn, how's Vince McMahon going to be comfortable pushing a guy who's what 5'8", 5'9"?
Yeah.
But again, under Hunter, that's not really going to be an issue. This guy had takeover main events with Adam Cole and Johnny Gargano, and both guys, I like they go up to my eyebrow. You know what I mean? So yeah, I think someone like Carmelo, he would have an immediate impact. Just the fact that like there's going to be so many opportunities for rehab for certain talents that are on the main roster, like
Yeah.
even more so than you even think. Like I'm scrolling the timeline and I see the former Dominic Dijakovic tweet about being fired up today, and I'm like, this guy, like, look, even him, like he was
Yeah.
T-Bar for years, right? And it's like just kind of almost factory resetting him back to what he was in NXT makes him, if nothing else, just a viable guy on the show that could do things, which that sounds like regular, but it's like because their programming is so focused on like the same six to 10 people, it's what adds to the staleness and monotony of their programming.
Yeah.
And so just a few new guys in the mix, given some momentum of some kind, at least adds to the variety. And the hope is that some of these guys are able to kind of rediscover the fire and the momentum that they have. I mean, look, we have Ali and Cedric Alexander and Ricochet and guys like that kind of riding the pine, so to speak. And it's like, dude, there's a lot of talent there.
Absolutely.
Monty, when I think about this, right? I remember when the draft happened last year, the big reaction was, wow, SmackDown's roster is super shallow. And it is in a sense of like there were only two pushed main eventers on the roster, right? But from a talent standpoint, it's like, yeah, you can do something with Angel Garza. You can do something with a Mustafa Ali. You could do something with, this guy and that guy.
Yeah, there's loads of them.
Yeah,
Jay Shaw's had a hand up for like
oh,
2
sorry,
hours.
I
So
didn't see your face. I'm sorry.
it's a very quick comment. I would like to say
Yeah.
that Triple H should hire me if he has concerns about their wrestlers' height.
Come on.
No.
Yeah, no. As a backstage interviewer, yeah,
They
actually.
they can bill me at 4'11" because I'm still small enough. I'm 5'1", but I look 4'11", and it'll make all the wrestlers look taller, and it'll be great for them. That's all I want to say.
Jay, you want to find something out? So WWE is actively, like, when it comes to their hiring. I mean, now it's not going to be an issue with Vince gone, but they were trying to hire shorter backstage personnel because the idea was Vince wants the wrestlers to look bigger and larger than life, and so he wants them bigger than the normal interviewers.
So
It's
what
why
I'm hearing
Kevin,
is you want me to drop out of college.
yes, and so again, yeah, it's why he wanted Kevin Patrick to like crouch down, standing next to certain wrestlers because he wants them looking big. So yeah, Jay Shaw, listen, just you're a very bright young lady who's passionate about the business. So drop out of college, contact Mr. Paul Levesque, have a conversation with him, and he's gonna hire you, and you're gonna be on Raw tomorrow.
It'd
So
be great.
yeah,
Tomorrow.
Tremendous.
I mean, sorry,
In an
next
hour.
week.
It is
in an
interesting
hour.
to your point about Dijakovic. Like, if you go through the roster, so many of those guys work with Triple H, and like
Yes.
you would assume he has a positive based on how he used them. Like
Yeah.
you're right. It definitely goes deeper than people. There are obvious names people are looking at, but it honestly goes way deeper than that. Like,
Yeah.
I think most people are going to be rehabbed some, even if only a little bit. They won't be
Yes.
complete losers. So
Yeah, like
That'd be fun.
even something as minor as Akira Tozawa outside of the ninja outfit in regular gear, having moderately competitive matches with other good wrestlers, like that. Even that is a gigantic step up from being a 24/7 comedy ninja. So.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So obviously, all of this has happened because of the ongoing Vince McMahon scandal. Monty, I'm told there is an update on that in that regard. What have we got on that front?
It looks like things have just gone completely off the cliff for
Couldn't
that
happen so
old
nicely,
man.
Yeah.
Wow. So
What's the-
WWE issued a corporate filing with the SEC this morning, announcing basically that it is determined that Vince McMahon's payouts in the past should have been recorded as official company expenses, stating in the filing that it has made a preliminary preliminary determination that certain payments that Vince McMahon agreed to make during the period from 2006 through to 2022, including amounts paid and payable in the future that were not recorded in WWE consolidated financial statements, should have been recorded as expenses in the quarters in which those agreements were
Who
made.
could have seen it coming, Monty? Huh? Who could have seen?
Dirty business,
You know?
bro. Nasty
Who could
business,
it?
man.
When major outlets reported on this story, I just assumed it was a simple affair that would blow away. I definitely didn't realize it was going to be a major controversy. Who could have seen this coming? Jay Show, this is shocking news. You know,
$14.6 million as well.
it was
So,
honestly. I'm not even trying to do like a dunk thing because if people did this, God bless them. But there were genuinely people that responded to this being like, "This ain't gonna do shit to Vince." It's like, why do you think this is being reported by these outlets, bro? Come on, man. But nonetheless,
oh shit.
Jay Shell, any reaction to this?
$14 million is a whole lot of money. That's
Mhm.
I can't even comprehend how much money that is. I
a
need to
lot.
see 14 million grains of rice to understand how much money that is. That's fucking insane.
Fair. A fair response, really. Monty, what's your response? It's a lot of money.
I mean, yeah, it's a hell of a lot of money, but like we've kind of guessed, to be honest, when this stuff all started first coming out, it was just like, yeah, this is going to get real nasty. And it was just like, how nasty is it going to get? And every time something come out, it's like, how can it get worse? And it just keeps getting worse and worse and worse. And it's like, it'll probably still get worse. And might as well bring us to the Wall Street Journal article that just dropped. So about 45 minutes ago, Wall Street Journal dropped an article with the tweet saying new investigations by the SEC and federal prosecutors into hush money payments made by WWE's Vince McMahon to settle allegations of sexual misconduct hastened his retirement as chief executive, according to people familiar with the matter. So that would obviously, that would suggest that it's going to get.
No, he had to resign.
He had to resign.
It was not a triumphant farewell. He was sent packing in absolute shame. And honestly, the way the story's unfolding, it may get bad enough that they actually have to like hide away from his part in it, which would be the funniest fucking outcome of all this. Could you imagine they're at a point where they have to be like, he won't ever be sweet because, it's still there. I think it could get quite weird in that regard, which is awesome.
Here's the deal. So
there's a thunderstorm happening.
Yeah,
I need a sandbag.
I got a warning in my phone. Here's the thing, guys. First of all, how's my sound? I rejoined with my new microphone. With the microphone I have. I don't know if I sound any different. I hope I'm better. But here's the deal. Look, guys, when the first thing came out about the hush money and the paralegal, I remember saying on that day that Vince needs to step down because what's going to happen is more damning, embarrassing, and damaging information is going to be released. Shout out to Jay Shell's dog. More really just rough stuff is going to come out, and it's just going to keep coming out until he resigns. Yep. You know what I mean? And if you know anything about the history of the business and Vince and pro wrestling, you just knew that Vince having relations with the paralegal and paying her for these relations, you knew that was not as bad as it was going to get. You knew that was literally the surface of what was likely just a really gruesome, nasty line of just misdeeds by Mr. Vincent Kennedy. And so again, I was like, man, Vince, he's gonna be stubborn. I knew what was gonna happen. He's gonna be stubborn. He's gonna be defiant. He's gonna say, "Fuck you, I'm Vince McMahon. You guys can't do anything to me." And then more stuff is gonna come out, and then he's gonna just be like, "Yikes!" And then he's gonna hide a little bit, and then more stuff is gonna come out, and eventually it's gonna get so bad that he's gonna be like, "Wow, I have to leave to save my company." And that's happened because surely he's caught wind of what's about to come out. We're about to reach wave 3 of stuff, and again, it's just gonna get uglier and rougher and nasty. Because guess what? First, it was consensual relations with a paralegal. Then it turned into he's coercing women to do certain things to stay employed. Essentially, what next? We're gonna get names attached to these things, more overt, detailed stories. It's going to get worse and worse and worse. And so obviously it was inevitable once this whole thing became a situation that Vince was gonna step down. The matter was when, not if. And so again, I want to stress to everybody, Vince McMahon didn't retire. Vince McMahon was gonna never retire. He was never going to fucking retire. This is a guy who literally has CTE, has trouble remembering wrestlers' names, has trouble remembering what matches he did the previous week, and yet he still wanted to do television weekly because that's just who he is. He's a workaholic, and this is all he knows. And he was never going to let anybody force him out. So for him to step down, it's not because he was just like, man, I'm kind of old and maybe it's time, right before SummerSlam. No, it was like, oh shit, and he's getting pretty bad, pal. Oh man, goddamn, pal. And so he stepped away. This was a resignation, not a retirement.
Absolutely. I mean, Monty can he can co-sign this. Listen, folks, I'm wrong about most things.
Yeah.
But from very early on, I was pretty convinced this was the end. Because as much as us in wrestling, we don't think it's Vince. They're a publicly traded company at this point. Like, it ain't just his, little set of toys, and it's different. And I will say I didn't expect it to happen before the end of July, but that's where we're at. Jay Shell, your hand was once again raised.
Yeah, I just wanted to apologize for my dog. There is an actual thunderstorm outside, and she's very anxious, so I have to pick her up.
I'm fascinated by the cause of the hand going up here. It's been very interesting. I'm watching unfold. I mean, the first time it was, please give me a job, and that was, I want to apologize for my dog.
This is a student coming out of Jay Shell with raised hands and stuff.
Yeah, I'm used to it, man. We get along the late night group.
That's awesome.
I kind of think it's our fault.
You remember when I used to write it on the paper and show it, Joe? I should do that gimmick again.
That's crazy.
There you go. All right, I'm about to leave you here, but let's do some before, because I know you guys are going to do Death Before Dishonor review, right? So I think it's natural as we kind of transition into that. Let's do a little bit of Gresham talk,
okay?
And then you guys can review the pay-per-view itself. So I think it's only right, Hollywood, that I start with you in this regard, because I know this was. I kind of sense you were going through it, like reading responses to this. Genuinely, I'm not saying able to be, because I've been there. I think. I have. So I want to give you the floor.
I tired myself out yesterday. Yeah, go ahead.
There you go. We'll speak to a little bit. Speak to the whole deal with Gresham and his apparent departure from AEW / Ring of Honor.
In general.
Yeah, just in your general reaction to it.
Sure. When I heard that John Gresham requested his release. I kid you not, I was completely unfazed and unsurprised. It's like I've followed this business for so long. Certain body languages, certain finishes booked, the way certain things are handled. It's really obvious when there's some weirdness going on. Jonathan Gresham telling me directly that he hadn't really had much of a dialogue with Tony Khan. Ever. And then following up by saying, he found out he was going to be in Tully Blanchard Enterprises the day he arrived on TV, and expressing that he wasn't sure how much thought went into the decision. And then tuning into the pay-per-view and seeing that, on the pre-show that he's been basically sold off to Prince Nana, and then losing in the opener in about 9-10 minutes to Claudio Castagnoli. I mean, the whole thing was very strange. And so, in my head, at the very least, it was clear that Tony, wasn't super high on John, because it's very apparent and clear when Tony Khan is high on a wrestler. When Tony Khan is really into a wrestler and really fired up about them, really passionate about them, he shows it. He talks about it in the scrums.
He hugs them.
He hugs them. He has them next to him. He gives them the multi-hour conversations on the phone and in person. They always talk about it when they mention signing there. And frankly, Tony features them a certain way. People like a Bryan Danielson, a CM Punk, Claudio Castagnoli, Jon Moxley, people that Tony Khan believes in. It's very obvious when Tony Khan believes in them, and when you're not high on that priority list, I think that's also very apparent. And just to me as a viewer, as someone who's been watching Tony's programming, it was clear that John Gresham was not high on his priority list. So to view all that and then find out that he asked for his release, it was just like, yeah, of course he asked for his release. And I respected John for requesting it, because it would have been really almost pointless for him to just kind of tread water, and just kind of hang around working for a guy who probably just, didn't really see him at a certain level and wouldn't really give him much of a time of day to even talk about where they stand and what's needed of him to kind of improve his standing. So it was almost a respectable thing on his end, in my opinion, just as my initial reaction, that he requested his release. My thing personally is, to anybody who wants to read that story and immediately jump to, shit on John's ability, or make it a comment of like, You know, are you gonna? Of course, he has to lose to Claudio. What I would say is this: take ability out of the question, right? In my opinion, I think it's totally fine if Tony Khan isn't a Jonathan Gresham guy. You know, promoters and bookers are entitled to feel how they feel about talent. But my thing is, you have to then be open and honest with the talent that you're dealing with when it comes to speaking to them, and also, you know, be honest with yourself. You know, if you're not a John guy, why sign him? And if you're not a John guy, why not have a conversation with him pretty early on and say, hey, I don't think what you do here works for me. But maybe if you worked on maybe doing A, B, and C, you'd be a better asset to my product. You know, Miro doing the gaming stuff wasn't the best, but Miro as a redeemer was a massive asset to All Elite Wrestling. You know, so if you're Tony Khan and you don't think you're not a believer in the octopus, the pure wrestler John Gresham, you know, why not vocalize that with him in a conversation, and you guys have a dialogue on and come to a point where maybe you can think of something for him that he's comfortable with executing, and so it's something that works better. But leaving a guy in the dark for months where he doesn't even know how you feel about him and his work, and then, you know, you throw him to TV and he's in a new stable, and then you throw him on a pay-per-view and he's just losing in very decisive and quick fashion, it helps nobody. You know, it helps absolutely nobody. To the point where Claudio Castagnoli, who is one of my favorite wrestlers, I've been longing for him to win a world title for years, and it did not feel momentous in any way when he won this championship. It didn't even feel like it meant anything. And the reason it didn't mean anything is because what in the world does the ROH championship mean in 2022? It wasn't presented like it mattered at all on AEW programming. You know, it's a very passerby, you know, passing thing where this guy kind of just, John I'm talking about, didn't even feel like a presence on the show. You know, if you don't present the champion like he's worthwhile, then Claudio didn't beat anyone worthwhile. And so this is not even like a title win. It feels like he's just being handed a prop that he's going to now have to create value in himself, which he eventually will because he's a terrific worker. But as we stand right now, that's kind of what it is. So again, for me, my general perspective is I feel really bad for John. I wish him nothing but the best. I hope he can find somewhere where he can truly just do what he does the way he would like to do it and get it over and get it respected. So I feel bad for him. This is probably just the right decision on his part when it comes to requesting the release. And I just think from AEW standpoint, they just need to work on communicating better, quite frankly. You know, it's becoming a recurring situation now with talents just talking about, you know, having a hard time expressing certain things to management and getting a word back and communicating. So I think that's just something they need to work on.
I would agree, Monty. I'll leave the team in your safe hands. Everyone enjoy the Death Before Dishonor review. Everyone please praise Samojo in my absence. I'll be over at Late Night Green. If you want to check it out after, we'll probably still be there. If not, there'll be a replay waiting for you. So appreciate you guys having me. I'll see you, Monty, for Raw review tomorrow, pal. All right? Get ready. See you later, guys.
Take care.
JShow, you've got a shoot as well, I believe. Unless you were just lying to me.
I was not lying. I would simply like to say, I'm sorry. I would simply like to say that if you are not a black person and you have a take about a black wrestler's take about wrestling as a black person, that sounded very convoluted.
I understand what you meant.
If you're white and you have an issue with something that a black person said about being black in wrestling, your opinion has no standing and you should not even give it. That's the final word that I would like to say. I will also be at Dynamite on Wednesday, so you can follow me on Twitter for all that content. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, JShow.
Yes. Bye, guys.
Thanks for coming along, JShow. Always good to have JShow and Joe. But yeah, man, we'll carry on with the Jonathan Gresham stuff. Obviously, we did the interview with him literally before he got on the plane and went to where was it again?
Boston,
do you remember?
Right?
Before we went to Boston, Mass. And,
isn't it crazy, Monty, that like just how foreboding that interview is, and like and how much it increases in relevance following
100%.
You know what's happened. You know, I took notice of how like the amount of views on the video itself more than doubled after the release incident, and it's a direct window into his mindset, I think. On a lot
100%. Yeah, it's just a flowing conversation, and he said to us before we went live, you know, like you don't do a lot of interviews because you know he's just very transparent and honest. And sometimes, like, especially with wrestling, and with things going around on Twitter and stuff, it's like even the way some of the people reply to some of the quotes we took from it for Twitter, it can just get a bit messy and stuff like that. And people have their hot takes and stuff like that. So, but he was very honest with us, and I appreciate that a lot. And when I was transcribing it, I said it to you yesterday. When I was doing the transcribing for the article, before we uploaded the video, it was like when I'm listening to it and just paying like extra close attention to what he's saying, it's just you could tell that he kind of felt a bit like very frustrated with kind of the way a lot of people look at US wrestling these days. And of course, towards the end, him saying that he's literally pretty much not spoken to Tony Khan pretty much at all, saying that he's only had very, very, very short, brief conversations with him, just probably like hellos and stuff. Yeah, that was very alarming to think that he's literally, because you could have made the argument that could have been a headline in the pay-per-view. Obviously, I will never ever complain about FDR versus Briscoe's headline in any pay-per-view, but
for sure,
if someone would have assumed that would have been headlining, then to see it go out, open the show, and only get 9 minutes, like you said, man, like even as a Claudio guy, like. It made it less momentous. Like it didn't feel like a world title match. Like that title win. Like even with all the things that you said, which were 100% correct about like the way he was presented, not feeling like a world champion, or especially in the lead up to it. But if Claudio and Gresham went out there and had a 20-minute world title main event caliber match, then the win would have felt a lot more. Like the finish, the finish itself felt kind of sudden. And it was just...
I feel like they had literally the worst possible version of a match that you could have between the two guys. Like I know some people were a fan of it, and I didn't think it was awful, but it just felt like everything about it was off on every level. From John coming out, looking looking
he had no gear and.
And
that's about the special gear. Of course, he had gear, but not the special.
Yeah. He it's the opener, and I think that John is very much up and down based on how much confidence he has and what he's feeling. And I think that I'm watching this match, and like I don't know, maybe I'm just looking too much into it, but it felt like his timing was a little bit off. He just wasn't. I feel like he just wasn't locked in. And it honestly felt like his confidence was shaking. And I'm watching this match where he's just kind of like going through the motions with Claudio and then loses. And everything about it just felt wrong. And again, to me, when he said to us in the interview that he hadn't had much of a conversation with Tony, that before he even said anything further, it was obvious he was losing the championship. Because Tony Khan would not.
Yeah, it wouldn't make sense.
He wouldn't
know what you was doing after and stuff like that.
Yeah, exactly. Tony's not going to freeze out a guy who's going to be leading his new brand. I'm sure Claudio and him have had tons of conversations where Tony basically gives him broad ideas and pitches of what he has envisioned for Ring of Honor. But a guy like John, who he probably was just going to have around, doing God knows what, trading water or whatever. Like, yeah, for that, because he's lower priority, like he's going to communicate with him less. And again, I just want to reiterate for when it comes to this type of stuff, it's like I understand, giving your main eventers, your heavy hitters, top priority when it comes to communication. I totally understand that. But that doesn't mean that you shouldn't afford everybody that you employ the decency of communication. And so I just want to say that again.
Yeah, like even to your point about Gresham seeming a little bit off, like that wouldn't be too surprising, to be honest, when you consider that according to Sean's report on Fightful Select, that he literally was cussing Tony Khan out, arguing with him. Apparently, the meeting was at 4 p.m. that day. So, literally a couple hours before the pre-show starts.
Crazy.
And obviously, with him opening the show, that's kind of crazy, man. Like I said, to go from. Especially like it says in Sean's report, he as according to people on Gresham's side of things, he's done with wrestling for the foreseeable future after this month, is the exact quote. So he was obviously not in the best of places to be.
No. No,
to be
he's clearly in a
at
bad
all.
way to a degree, and it's why I feel bad for him. So I really feel bad for him.
Yeah, I felt bad for him before, like the release and the argument talks and
Yeah.
all that sort of stuff started coming up. Because, like I said, man, like you know, like whether you're into Gresham or not, one thing you definitely can't take away from him is that when Ring of Honor closed down, he pretty much did everything he possibly could in his power to keep the Ring of Honor World Championship at least like relevant and talked about
Yes.
or defending it genuinely kind of not all over the world, but probably just kind of like the step below Omega when he was doing his whole like actual world champion run. And you know, you already know Hollywood. I'm a sucker for actual world champions who travel
Yeah, that
around,
travel the
you know,
world and defend it everywhere.
actually, you know, a real world champion. And
Yeah.
Gresham was genuinely trying to do that in the absence of Ring of Honor, and you know, he was always waving the flag. And yeah, you can say like, you know, how big of a flag that is because Gresham's not really like the world's biggest star or anything, but you know, as their world champion, he did his part definitely. And you know, it's to see him get what he's to see him get as little as what he's got from AEW, Tony Khan, whoever else is helping Tony since since the purchase of Ring of Honor has been a little bit of a bummer to say the least. Then obviously Saturday night the match with Claudio kind of topped it off because, like I said, even as a Claudio guy, it's like I like both wrestlers, and you know everybody loves Claudio. But even as a Claudio guy, like the way that match went down, like it just even taken away from Claudio's big moment. Like, you know, I wanted to see more of Claudio. I wanted to see more of Gresham, and it could have. I was expecting it to be that as well. You know, like I was expecting it to be kind of like not a coming out party for Gresham, but definitely to the AEW audience. Like it would have been. It could have definitely easily have been. You know, Gresham's best match by quite a distance in under the Tony Khan umbrella. So yeah, like I said, just kind of a bummer really. Kind of like I said, regardless of your opinion on him, you kind of you know, I don't think you can really blame fans of his for being at least a little bummed out and you know.
Yeah. Well said. And I think one of the more disappointing things, though, Monty, even outside of the situation, is just the social media reaction to it. I think people are like extremely sorry. Yeah, I think they're just extremely unsympathetic to the situation. And you know, could you say that John should have handled this thing, that thing differently or better? I mean, sure, but at the end of the day, in talent disputes where the talent is like wronged in some way, people tend to just take the talent's side over the promotion and usually justify any perceived unprofessionalness by just saying like, hey man, it was justified anger. We've done it with Sasha Banks, we've done it with Naomi and all these other past wrestlers. And so for me, for people to kind of rationalize this, but like, hey man, well he shouldn't have had that face when he walked out, or he shouldn't have done this and he should have done that. It just confirms to me that this whole thing is a bit of an exercise in confirmation bias, and people who just kind of have their mind made up and want to feel what they want to feel and have decided it, they're going to twist and interpret any story that comes out in a way that serves what they already want to believe. And that's a bit disappointing because I think what's fair is fair, and it's okay to say that Tony's wrong for something. It doesn't make you less of an AEW fan. It doesn't mean that AEW doesn't put on a good product. But this could have been handled better. That's the bottom line.
Just to be clear, I think even Hollywood agrees with me on this. It's not the fact that Gresham lost; it's more so the manner of his presentation, and obviously with a world title match opening the show and going 9 minutes is it's kind of nuts. Like I said,
the build up, man. John's made 3 appearances on AEW television, and 2 out of the 3 are super just like in passing, very nothing appearances. Again, I see someone, I see a comment came up where a guy was basically justifying like Claudio winning. Like, bro, I'm not even arguing Claudio defeating Jonathan Gresham. That's not my argument. But like, goddamn, make that Ring of Honor championship mean something. You're relaunching a brand. It's almost a self-owned. It's a self-owned, in my opinion, that you're trying to get this relaunch over and this brand over. But in doing that, you're not making the champion feel like he matters. So it's like, why should your brand matter if the champion doesn't matter? And so I don't understand that. But it is what it is. Clearly, you're going to see now what, with Claudio. Claudio's going to be on AEW every week, right? And he's going to be defending his championship pretty regularly. And I believe that he's going to be an example of what it looks like when Tony's behind someone versus when he doesn't care. Because Claudio is going to get a lot of focus and time and all these cool dream matches and things like that. And he will surely, increase and rehab the value of the championship just with his performances. But it's going to be a big stark. It's going to be a big stark contrast to the John handling and how nothing it was. So, yeah.
So we might as well carry on going through the Ring of Honor card,
Sure.
to be honest. So
Sure.
that was our pretty deflating review of the Jonathan Gresham versus Claudio Castagnoli.
Wait, before you continue, you know what the John interview reminds me of now? CM Punk did an interview with Ariel Helwani right before he quit WWE. And if you haven't seen it, go find it. It's like in his kitchen. Ariel Helwani's just in CM Punk's kitchen, and Punk looks extremely disheveled and tired and frankly depressed. And they just talk about wrestling and stuff. But when you just look at Punk and watch him, it's clear he's just checked out and a bit disconnected from what's going on. And it's very interesting watching it retroactively. Because if you read body language, you just know where everything was going. The craziest thing was in that interview, Ariel Helwani asks Punk, he goes, "Are you happy?" And Punk hesitates and he's like, "Oh, what?" He's like, "Are you happy?" He's like, "Yeah, I'm happy." And it's like he's not, he doesn't believe what he's saying. You know what I mean? And so me just going back and re-listening to the interview, it's just kind of it's one of those eerie things that's foreboding. So yeah. What did you think of the whole show, Monty? What did you make of Death Before Dishonor?
I really enjoyed it. I did, honestly. Everything that I wanted to pop me.
Yeah.
Briscoe's FTR was great. Obviously, we'll talk about all these matches. Rouge versus Dragon Lee was overexceeded for me.
Yeah, they worked their ass off.
Yeah, them two definitely stood out for me. Samoa Joe just being in Ring of Honor, the card in general had a pretty high floor for my personal enjoyment purely because of that. Just see, obviously because it's a heated feud between him and Lethal, and they've done the jump start and the brawl at the start before the match and the bell went off. It was like as soon as Joe came out, he had that look in his eyes, bro. He's a fucking killer. I love Samoa Joe, man. I enjoyed the show. It got me my Ring of Honor pops that I wanted. I kind of wanted I found myself as the week was going on. I kind of found myself leaning towards wanting the Briscoes to be FTR. But it's not one of those things that was ever going to ruin the show for me because the match was always just going to be that good. Wheeler Yuta versus Daniel Garcia, I thought it was nice. I probably would be lying if I said I wasn't expecting a little bit more, at least. But it was still a nice match. But like I said, I was expecting a little bit more, and I thought the ceiling for it is definitely a lot higher than what they went out and done. Not to say that it was a bad match at all; it was still a good match. But I think that just speaks to how much of a great match I think these two are definitely capable of. So what stood out for you, Hollywood?
So I was really excited going into this show.
Mm-hmm.
I've expressed that so much in all these pods we've been doing. And I guess compared to my expectation, it didn't quite meet it, but that's also because I had it really high. I was expecting a show of the year candidate, comparable to Forbidden Door for me personally.
That Gresham Claudio incident, I'm telling you, bro.
It did put a weird mood.
And to follow it with the weird, not a weird 6-man, but to follow it with a less than amazing 6-man tag match as well.
I think it was less than amazing. I think it was just not good. For me, there was a weird vibe for most of the show, and a lot of it didn't connect with me to the degree that I would have hoped it would have. And that's not to say this event was bad, because there was a lot of quality pro wrestling, but I think the crowd was a bit of a factor. The crowd was just not quite as hot as I would have liked.
Not your typical AEW pay per
No,
view.
no.
You know.
And the other thing that hit me was parts of the event that were cold. It coincides with the things that just weren't really built that much on television. There were parts of the show where I'm like, yeah, like, wow, this could have been built a bit more on television. This could have been built a bit more on television. And people try to act like builds are overrated and this and that. But when it's people that you're trying to get over, it's important because it's like, hey, if the AEW audience isn't super familiar with this wrestler or that wrestler, you want to at least get them over so that whatever, you know what I'm saying, like for example,
100%.
Yeah. And so I don't know, it felt like a good to very good show. And like because I was really jacked for it and like expecting like tremendous, it's weird that like very good, like I walk away from it kind of going like, okay, rather than like, oh my god, yeah. And again, that's not to say that this was a bad event. I thought that the Lucha match with Roosh and Dragon Lee, like I thought they worked their asses off, and they had a very good match. Samoa was awesome because he's Joe forever, like he's the best, right?
Yeah.
Garcia and Yuta, I thought that they it did not recapture the magic of their IWTV 100 match, which
no way.
Man, like it did not approach that. But in its own right, it became a very nice technical match towards the end. And my feeling coming out of it is just that I would love to see these guys just wrestle like all the time, honestly. And I wouldn't be opposed to a best of 7. Like they feel like the types of guys that they have such unique chemistry, and they can do different things to each other in different matches. Like they don't need to just do every single thing that they know, because both of them like know how to do so much when it comes to just technical wrestling and sequences and things like that. So I want to see them fight again. And that's just what I felt watching that. I think that turned into a very good match towards the end. The Gresham match was what it was. It kind of just it felt like an extended feeling out stretch, and then we went right from that to just like transition moves and then like the finish, and it was like, really strange. I felt like it didn't even like happen like once it was over. Didn't think much of the women's match. I didn't think much of the 6-person tag. And then regarding FTR and Briscoes, what I would say about it is that I don't think the 2 out of 3 falls stip worked for me personally, to be honest with you. And yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't. And Monty, listen, I gotta be honest. I didn't even like this match in the first fall. Like I was just like, man, this is kind of just happening. And I was like, man, is this gonna be like just not good? But the second fall happened, and
he was in a bad mood because of Gresham. I'll forgive you.
Yeah, no. Here's what I'll tell you. It started at such a deficit for me in my mind that I thought, like, wow, like the rematch just ended up being a bad match. That's crazy. This is a bad match. And then, like, by the end of it, I still gave it 4 1/4 because I thought it turned out terrific. They started bleeding, and then they started beating each other up and bleeding and doing pile drivers and punching each other and diving and But
I enjoyed it. I'll be honest.
I thought it became very epic. You know what it felt like? Actually, it felt like it's weird to say this because this is like a somewhat of a compliment, but also somewhat of a diss. But it's like almost neither. It's just kind of like what I see it as. The second match felt like a Cole Gargano match. like they're 3 stages of hell, kind of.
I think you should all boo Hangman in the chat again.
I gave it 4 1/4. It became great. They worked really hard. Plunder got involved, and it was good when that happened. It was really long and epic, and it got great once it got epic. And they worked really hard, and by the end, it was easily the match of the night and very, really great. But I'd be lying if I thought that it was on the same level of their Supercard of Honor match. I don't think it's on the same level. Just me.
I don't think it's on the same level as the first match, but to think anything could be, it would be you know.
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard.
I think I gave the first one like I think it broke my scale sort of thing. I think I
There
give
you
it
go.
like 5.5 stars. So,
There you
anywho, I like that with the first four. I just kind of like the idea of FTR being a bit beaten up and Briscoe's like almost kind of just running them over and just like kind of beating the shit out of them. To be honest, been like to go to for the 2 out of 3 full stipulation. One of my favorite things about it was in those closing moments in the third fall, it genuinely felt like the 12th round of a boxing fight.
Yes, yes.
Just like
Which is
grueling, just
it
really
is a lot
just
of attrition
yeah,
and stuff.
it was something, man.
That's why I said, it became it strived to be an epic at the end, and it succeeded in that. And once it became an epic, it got even better to me. Like it became a great match.
I thought Mark Briscoe was unreal in this. I thought like he was just he's people sleep on the Briscoes, man. Like everyone knows the great and everything, but I don't think people are for my liking, they're not in enough all-time conversation. I've said it plenty of times on this. Well, I won't say I've said it plenty of times. I've said it plenty of times over the past couple of weeks. They're genuinely my favorite favorite tag team of all time. They're just special, man. Like every time Jay and Dax get in the ring together as well, like it just ups the intensity and the feel of the match. Like in that third fall when they just straight up start fucking punching each other in the face, it's just like incredible. Like even like the way they walk up to each other every time, it has like this special feel to it. Like Dax pulling his trunks up, like fuck, here we go.
Yeah.
And it was just there's just so many little things about it, like the Briscoes had Dax up on the shoulders, about to hit the finish, and Dax is like so desperately calling for Cash to come save him. He's like, Cash, please, please. Like, it's just the little things, man. Like, just two absolutely tremendous, all-time great tag teams having like. I just think they have great chemistry. I could watch them. By the end of it, I realised that I could have easily watched them go an hour, like easy.
It's funny. Once we got to that point, I was like, "This might as well go an hour since we're at like 45 or whatever we're." But yeah, again, like I said, it did feel like a war of attrition. It did feel like the late rounds of a boxing match, and yeah, man, it was epic, man. It was great. It was a great match, and I'm just so happy for FTR. Like they're having such a great year, and
Yeah.
I'm happy they're put in position to just continue to have great performances and have people feel positively about what they do because they're tremendous, and they won our WrestlePurists Wrestlers of the Week, and to me it was well deserved. I voted for Brody King because I'm a weirdo who just overpopped for just his performance as a monster, but ultimately I totally get why Dax and Cash won this, man. They're having a killer year. They had a killer week, and with Dax's awesome 8-year-old girl promo, and then this performance here. So listen, man, shout out to them. They deserve to main event the show. They're more over than they've ever been. They're looking to be facing Claudio and Yuta eventually, it looks like. That's cool. I almost, it's funny, I mentioned this on Twitter. I'm almost even more interested in Dax and Claudio for the world title.
And I feel like Dax is one of those wrestlers. Like, I suppose it's different to Ishii because he's just a straight singles wrestler. But every graphic with Dax on it as a singles feels special. Like it just does. I don't know why. Maybe it's just me and the way I would pop for him. But yeah, like when he got announced for the New Japan Strong match, I think against Rocky Romero, is it? It just pops me every single time. Those Dax singles matches, it's like a special treat for the nerds like myself. So yeah, man. I want to talk a little bit more about Yuta versus Garcia. It was just something that I kind of realised through the match, and it's Daniel Garcia wrestled more like a Blackpool Combat Club member than Yuta did. I'm not sure if that was intentional or not. I just wanted to kind of get your take on that.
He does in general because he's very he's very like shoot
Vicious.
style. Well, yeah, he has an innate intensity to his approach to wrestling. He's shoot style oriented. I feel like you could put him in a UWF rules match. You can put him in like a match with like those types of shoot style wrestlers, and it's like a natural fit because of his training and his background. So yeah, to me, Yuta, and this is not a knock on him because I enjoy him a lot, and I'm glad he's in the stable. But it feels like a guy who's like not pretending, but just trying to summon a nastiness out of him that maybe he doesn't innately have naturally in his performance. Because like they always say like, "Oh, we need to see your violent side, your vicious side." And when I see Yuta, I see like this. I see an athletic baby face. And,
the trainee of the group,
Yeah, but what I'm saying is like when I look at him in his game, like it's like more athletic baby face rather than like violent killer who's like scary. And there's nothing wrong with that, but it's just when it comes to like the idea of the group and like you have to be vicious and violent to be in the group. I mean he could like he could imitate that, but it doesn't necessarily feel like him, so to speak. I guess my point. So yeah, honestly, I don't think that was intentional, but I think that's something that's interesting and something that you could explore. Garcia kind of alluded to this himself in the sit-down interview they had, where he basically said like, "Yo, at the end of the day, Bryan Danielson was mentioning me in all the interviews. They were talking about me, because and he's talking about having dog in him and all that stuff. There's a reason for that, so." He, to some degree, clearly saw that as something you could mention in storyline because he probably felt like, yeah, like I wrestle like a Blackpool Combat Club guy, So there you go.
Yeah. To be fair, there's no point us going through and reviewing a 6-man, especially considering you didn't enjoy it yourself. So, the only thing I'd have to say about it is that Dalton Castle still pops me. To be honest, he just does. I don't know about It's not even so much that I get excited to see any of his matches or anything. It's just his whole presentation and just Dalton Castle and the boys. It just pops me.
No, I don't disagree. I really liked his performance at Battle of the Belts with Gresham.
Yeah, he's just a bit of fun TV to me, to be honest. I don't think personally, if I had the pen, I would have put this match on the card anyway. I get maybe Tony Khan wanting to do the 6-man title change, but
yeah,
still. Like I said, the start of this card, it got off to a kind of a weird start with, for me personally, with kind of like I said, the Gresham match going 9 minutes, then kind of just throwing that 6-man tag out there, which it didn't feel like anyone was really too into. Then to transition into what was next? Was it Rouge versus Dragon Lee, or was it the pure title match? But even still, those were the next 2 matches coming up, and like. For as good as Rouge versus Dragon Lee was, it was like the pure rules matches. They're kind of like you want them to go on like after a hot match, so the crowd's like at a certain level going into it, So I don't know, man. Like I said, it was kind of like a weird start. Then, the last couple of matches, Samoa Joe and FTR versus Bristol, is kind of it's kind of all I needed, to be honest. I think I said it to you during the week, but I'm more excited for this this Ring of Honor card than most like AEW pay-per-views over the past couple of years purely because Samoa Joe's back in Ring of Honor and FTR versus Briscoes is happening. So I don't when those 2 things are on a card, I don't need much more, to be honest. So then like I said, Samoa Joe, can't say enough good shit about him, to be honest. He's just all he has to be at this point in his career is Samoa Joe, and he's so like locked in and just kind of like smart and.
Hello, Monty. We lost your sound. Monty, we lost your sound. Hello, can you hear me? Hello? I can't hear you, Monty. I don't know what happened. I don't know if it's my sound or yours. Give me a second. It sounded like you bumped the microphone and then I just stopped hearing you. I'm not hearing you, Monty. Hold on. Hello? No, I can't hear you. Monty, you're muted.
I'm not muted now, but am I
Yeah, now I can hear you.
it again?
Hello? Yeah, you're back. You're back. I think you muted yourself. I can't
No,
tell.
I muted myself while I was not gone. So anyway, moving on for technical difficulties. Samoa Joe, he's a fucking man. At this point in his career, he pops me in the way that he doesn't really have to do much. He's just Samoa Joe, you know. He's just so like physically charismatic, and the people are just so into him. He literally just has to. He doesn't have to do a lot, man. And like I said, he's locked in so much upstairs that he's just like he knows what he's doing out there, man. And I'd say that he's got physical limitations now, but you know, he still hit that dive. You know,
Yeah, the elbow suicide.
every time I see him. Every time I see him go for that dive, it's like I kind of shit myself. Can't lie. And he pulls it off, man. He fucking does it, bro. Yeah. But I think the issue with my sound earlier, I think my mic just randomly decided to either just stop working or break. So now I'm just using a laptop microphone instead. So we'll see what happens. I may have just been owned. We'll see. But we won't be sticking around too much longer anyway, because Raw's obviously starting soon, and we've kind of gone through everything anyway. So, you got anything to add to the Gresham stuff, or any other topics you want to quickly go over before we get out of here? Or
yeah, I think Johnny Gargano, his patience has been rewarded. He sat out the entire year, waiting to let the wrestling landscape play out. And I think what he did was maybe a lesson and to other people in the business, because you know, maybe sometimes you don't have to rush into something that maybe doesn't completely fit you in your situation. You know, I think it was a legitimate fact that, you know, him walking into WWE with Vince and Bruce would have been a disaster. It would have been an absolute disaster. His name would have been changed, and he would have been a manager. Him running into AEW would have been really cool for the first week or two, but he would have just been in the mix, the conveyor belt of just hot names that come in and have a hot debut and then get used, you know, intermittently and interchangeably with other guys. And he would have been kind of hot today and cold tomorrow, you know, sad to say, like, because, you know, where does he stand? Like, if he went to AEW, he's a hot debut, but it's like we've seen it with Swerve and with all these other guys, you know, like, not that they're doing poorly, but it's just kind of like, it's almost like that's just kind of what they do. It's like, we need you for the surprise and the shock debut, and then you wrestle every 2 to 3 weeks in cool matches. But with so many people there, it's like, how would he even have been able to stand out? You know what I mean? In a meaningful way. And so I remember thinking, like, I don't know, there is a fit for Johnny Gargano right now in a mainstream stage. And so I really was not sure what he should do. And now he waited long enough that his answer for what he should do is actually pretty clear. It's to sign with WWE, because the guy who's given him the biggest push of his entire career is now heading creative over there. And they do have a couple open spots for some notable talents.
Head of creative and head of talent relations, and obviously to kind of extend off the back of the Johnny Gargano thing, like, there's a lot of not quite identical to Gargano's case, because like you said, he's kind of played the long game and kind of seen how things played out. Obviously, he's had his child as well with Candy, so you know, he's just kind of sat back and seen how things have played out. But with Triple H being head of talent relations, and now we know that he's going to be head of creative, you know, the talents know that as well. So there's a lot of talent who are kind of either floating in free agency at the moment. That, you know, we may be seeing back again under the WWE banner, to be honest. I think the Sasha Naomi situation is quite interesting. If Triple H decides to give them a call. I think the Io Shirai contract situation is very interesting now. It was anyway, to be honest. Even more so now, though. Then there's other random names as well. I asked you yesterday about Karrion Kross, because obviously it's obvious that Triple H likes him and Scarlett as a duo.
Where did you
as a
ask me that?
TV.
Was that on a pod? I don't even remember where we talked about this. Was it in messages?
I think
might
it was
have
in
been
messages,
right? Yeah, Karrion Kross is another really big one.
Dakota Kai as well. Jamie just mentions in the chat.
Holy
There's a lot. Then obviously there's more obvious ones as well, like Bray Wyatt. So I get it makes all those situations a lot more interesting.
There are so many open lanes now for returning people who hadn't yet found landing spots in other promotions, and potential signings. I don't think the independent scene is nearly as deep as it was years ago, and Triple H essentially rated it for NXT. But there are a lot of guys just kind of floating around that have been in the company that are favorable to Triple H that don't have landing spots again, like a Dakota Kai, like a Tegan Knox, like a Karrion Kross, who they could all be kind of thrown into the mix. So it's very interesting to see how many of them resurface and how quickly, and who are the guys that Hunter pinpoints as his guys when it comes to points of emphasis, people that should be pushed. Because I think one of the things when a new regime comes in with wrestling and you're booking, one of the first few things that they usually do is they get pieces in place and then they choose their core group of people that these are the people that I'm going to elevate. These are the people who are my stars. These are the people who I'm going to bring into the picture, and I'm very curious who are going to be Hunter's guys in that. And I'm almost certain that even though he was doing pretty solidly for himself, I'm almost certain Walter is going to be a gigantic beneficiary of all of this.
Most likely.
And I think even when it comes to just other stars who are pushed, I think just an alteration of their presentation will go a long way in them being better TV characters. Like, for example, Drew McIntyre and Seth Rollins. Drew McIntyre is a great wrestler, but the hokey like sword stuff, just that being toned down a bit, and Seth Rollins maybe being just a bit more grounded. That goes a long way from just me being able to enjoy watching them, doing things outside of wrestling, because there's so many people in WWE that I like watching them wrestle, and I don't really like seeing them do much of anything else because of how they're presented, so very interesting to see.
Of course, we've got tonight's Raw. We've got Madison Square Garden, looking at a sellout, I believe.
Packed house.
A sellout for WWE as well, anyway, which is around about 14,000 if you include walk-ups as well.
It's going to be about 14, 15. They're gonna announce 15. So
yeah, that's what I was saying to you yesterday. They'll probably be around 14 and announce 15. So we'll see. If they even do an announcement, because they don't always do that for TV. So
you know what I am actually curious of. One last thing I'll say is they scheduled the Bloodline versus Riddle and the Street Profits, and Rey Mysterio and Dominic versus Judgment Day. And in my mind, Monty, like I'm like, all right, these are Raw matches. They'll both be a little bit over 3 stars each, and I'm very curious if these guys do more than they would have normally done in a normal Raw match. Like, I'm very curious if, like, off the gate, Triple H is like, yeah, just get all your shit in. I'm really curious if they do that, or if they're just gonna do what they're used to doing and just have a normal Raw match. You know what I'm saying? And I'm actually gonna be looking extremely closely at that when it comes to just an in-ring style. Like are we gonna ramp that up immediately? Are they gonna change out how we lay things out? Are we gonna get all our shit in when it comes to these multi-man tags? I'm very curious. It's why I jokingly made the tweet that Rey Mysterio tonight is gonna go 2018 all in. They went nuts. I don't know. People always took that serious. I was like shit posting, but I mean, you never know, really. If Triple H says like, bro, you're Rey Mysterio, it's your night, go crazy. They might do it. And I'll tell you one more thing, Monty. That match is probably going to be a DQ or some really stupid shit initially. And I could see Hunter maybe being like, nah, dude, let's do something a bit more decisive. So very interesting to see. Any changes will be pretty noticeable if you watch the show. And so I'm going to be looking out for like a lot of little things. And so
it'll be an interesting watch, man.
Yeah,
I was saying to Joe earlier, like, I will lose my fucking mind if Triple H opens this show. I'm telling you, bro.
I frankly, I think you should.
That's what we said. He should, but we're
Yeah.
just not sure if we think it'll actually happen. But it should,
Yeah.
and it'll pop me. It'll send me crazy, bro. It'll pop me like Triple H coming out at MSG again. Like, it would just be fucking poetic, bro. Like,
his MSG return was 20 years ago.
yeah, that's what I'm saying, bro. Like, fucking, let's get it going. But yeah, tonight, Raw, Triple H first night as head of creative. Of course, Bruce is still on the team. How long we don't know. Probably expecting a few little changes. The card is pretty decent, to be honest. It's pretty good, I'll be honest. Obviously, Roman Reigns is wrestling on the show, which is a rarity these days. He's teaming up with the Usos, taking on Riddle and the Street Profits. Mysterio's celebrating 20th anniversary of WWE debut. Logan Paul, if that pops you. I like to look at Logan Paul as like a case study, you know. So see what sort of potential he has in this. Obviously, the Miz stuff is obviously not the ideal feud, but you know that'll be over eventually. And like you said, Mysterio versus Judgment Day. We'll see how that goes, and I'm sure there's more that's been announced on Twitter because we'll see, won't we? And Sean obviously over at Fought for Select subscribers of that. We'll see the the outline of plans that they'll be doing tonight. So I'm sure that'll be coming out in the next few minutes. So go check that out. And yeah, man, let's finish it up. Have you got anything you want to plug, Hollywood?
Yeah, follow me at Backup Hangman on Twitter. I just want to thank everybody for listening to me just ramble about shit. Not much to plug right now, but you know, as always, keep up with me on Twitter. If anything comes up that I'm gonna do, I'll obviously update you guys first and foremost on that platform. And in the meantime, I just hope everybody has a wonderful evening. For those of you enjoying, you know, who are willing to watch Raw, this is probably gonna be the first one I'm gonna live tweet in a bit. This is gonna be the first Raw, Monty, that I'm watching the second it starts. Since the Raw after Mania. And before the Raw after Mania, it would have been like some point like last summer. Like I've seen Raws in between, obviously, but like it's always like I tune in late.
It's a 3-hour show, man. So.
No. What I was gonna say is I usually tune in late, skim through shit, skip a lot of stuff. This is one where just out of almost pure curiosity, I almost have to see what's going on like the minute it starts. You know, so
yeah,
there you go. I'll be live tweeting.
Yeah, well, I'm going to do something. Funnily enough, this week was the week I wanted to get back to doing live tweeting on the WrestlePurists account. So those of you who have followed the WrestlePurists account for a while may have noticed that I stopped doing live tweeting quite a while ago. That's mainly just because of busyness and just kind of, just having a lot of shit to do, basically. And, so I'm going to try to get back to live tweeting today, and obviously what better time to start than Triple H's first as head of WWE Creative for Monday Night Raw. But just a quick few plugs before we get out of here. Obviously, we already spoke about it quite a lot during this podcast, but if you haven't watched our interview with Jonathan Gresham, please do. Obviously, you can find that over on our YouTube channel. Also, our good friend Joe Hulbert, who was on at the start of this podcast, he has just done a written review of the FTR versus Briscoes 2 out of 3 Falls match. He's genuinely one of the best writers in this space. I'm not just saying that because he's one of us. I'm not just saying that honestly. He's one of the best, and we don't always get too many features off him. He needs to get really fired up about something to do it, and obviously that's the best way because you really do get to see his passion in his writing. So if you are a fan of written articles, I know they ain't for everyone, but that is something we are trying to push through more in this wrestling space with like proper high quality features about a variety of different things. So yeah, the Jonathan Gresham interview, the FTR Briscoes match review by Joe. Follow us over at WrestlePurists on Twitter. Hit up the website WrestlePurists.com. And yeah, man, Backup Hangman as always. Appreciate you coming on, even if you are late 9 times out of 10. And thanks everyone for listening.
Thanks everybody.